Welcome to episode 47 of the Coast to Coast AFL podcast, Synrick and Blaze. We're 3 seasons off the big 50. It's exciting for us because we never planned to make it this far. This week we will be talking about just a brief rundown of the unofficial preseason matches, so the match sims that happened between all of the teams, including the weird round robin that happened up in Brisbane, up on the Gold Coast, wherever that was. We also go over the preseason injuries that have happened so far, as they've kind of only been reported in multiple sort of places. So Psyrick, thankfully, has put them all into one fantastic slide that we will go through, and we will also take a look at the SSP selections by all of the teams who had SSP slots available, and just their thoughts on maybe extending the SSP window due to the injuries that we are also about to talk about. So, without further ado, how are you doing, Mr. Psyrick?
Not too bad, not too bad. I came out unscathed during the week. Luckily, you can't really pick up too many injuries from home, although I do try sometimes. But otherwise, yeah, I'm going all right. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I didn't really get up to much this weekend. It was a bit of sort of a busier week, quieter weekend sort of dig. But I did watch a couple of preseason matches. End up doing a bit of what do you call it? Guess rubbing shoulders with a few YouTubers as well. Like been looking into a few preseason analyses, just to see what the general vibe is. And yeah, like joined a watch along from a YouTuber called Wooden Spoon Data, having a few good chats with them. So shout outs to them.
Very nice.
And yeah, otherwise, yeah, just genuinely easing myself into football. As I said, I don't get too excited about the preseason, but some of the kids are good to see. Some of the injuries are bad to see. It's a mixed bag, but otherwise, how are you going, Blazy?
Oh, yeah, I am exhausted. So I just got back from a weekend trip up to Queensland. As we're recording this, I'm running on about 3 hours of sleep, give or take. It was a rough night for sleep because we're up late playing Mario Kart, and then I just couldn't get to sleep afterwards, and I had to be awake at like 4:30 to get my flight. I slept a little bit on the flights. I had a layover in Brisbane, which was nice. And yeah, I managed to make it home unscathed. I'm feeling pretty good, other just general tiredness. So I'm ready to tackle the week ahead. I've still got a couple stuff I need to do around the house and around the apartment. Sorry, around the apartment, I should say. Before the day ends, before I stream tonight as we're recording this. But when this episode goes out on Wednesday, I might be at the official Charity Shield preseason match between Richmond and Collingwood at Icon Park. That's still 50-50 at the moment because I haven't bought a ticket, but we'll see. That is possibly on the agenda. So,
Awesome.
Shall we jump into our first thing?
Yes. Probably a bit of a shame to wait. Are we going? Totally forgot. Are we running through the preseason matches?
Yes, we are doing the preseason matches first.
Yes, cool. Okay. On the more positive note, yeah, I've wrapped up the preseason matches. Most of this stuff is just from the AFL. But I thought, as I said, I've watched a few of them. I watched a tiny bit of. I think I actually did watch a tiny bit of West Coast versus Richmond, but that was like the first quarter. I watched the triple header, the Brisbane Gold Coast Collingwood triple header. Tiny bit of Port Adelaide versus Adelaide before they subbed in all the Sandford players. Yeah, I think that was it. Because it was a busy Saturday, so yeah. But to wrap it up, we're going to start with by going through all the scores. Whitten Oval, the Western Bulldogs 8-10-58 defeated Essendon 11-11-77. West Coast defeated Richmond 62-26. That was a 3-quarter game. Geelong in 4 quarters, 15-16-106, defeated Hawthorn 13-8-86. I think that might have been a bit more than 4 quarters. I'm not 100% sure. In a 2-quarter each affair, Brisbane defeated Collingwood 39-26. Gold Coast defeated Brisbane 47-37. And Gold Coast defeated Collingwood 50-32. Sydney defeated Greater Western Sydney. I think this was also 4 quarters. 125-68. Quite a big margin there. Adelaide defeated Port Adelaide 143-99 at Mark Barker. It was a very windy game. And as I mentioned, the Sandford players got introduced in the last half, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Carlton got defeated by St Kilda 58-69. And North Melbourne 71 lost to Melbourne 117. So, yeah, as I said, nothing too exciting. We'll run down the highlights that I've sort of brung out from each game, but for the most part, yeah, mainly it was a chunk of teams, sort of holding back players a bit. You're still running a lot of rookies, although some sides like I think not St Kilda. There were some pretty strong lineups as well. I think Essendon was one of them. I think Geelong might have been another one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that explains some of the lopsided scoring. But yeah, overall, bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah,
Few things to get excited about.
Take all of this basically with a grain of salt. Like most of the teams weren't exactly at full strength, so you can't really completely judge all of it. Although some of them you probably could judge if they played 4 quarters. But other than that, yeah, it's preseason is preseason.
Yeah, exactly. There's a drop of tone. Like you don't have as much pressure, so it becomes a bit easier for some of the kids to be able to impact the game. But also, as I said, just sometimes with the list matchup, sometimes you're looking at a team that's, having a few preseason injuries, which we'll go through, or, a few older players that they're just needing to rest. So, yeah, you just get a few weird matchups. But we'll start, just with the Western Bulldogs versus Essendon game. The big thing about that one was the young gun, Tom Edwards. He earns himself a SSP spot, as we'll cover later, over Kane Baldwin by kicking 5. Sort of, I guess, a player from nowhere. As I said, Essendon looking for forwards, so they'll be happy picking that up. I didn't watch a lot of this.
Do you think he'll kind of slot in perfectly over Stringer's spot?
Oh, I got no idea, but there's at least depth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, he might, because, again, if you go through some of those early season things, you're still missing players like Guelphy, someone else. I'll have a quick look.
Yeah, they are missing someone else.
Or even Durham.
Yeah.
Alwyn Davies is doubtful for opening round. And so, yeah, as I said, it's one of those things where he might get an early spot, but I think that'll be more for need than long term. It's just, good to pick that up.
Oh, yeah.
So, also, because it wasn't actually that much coming out of this game, I don't think any major injuries came from this game, luckily. But so just label the positional changes. Geel was playing a bit of halfback, so that might be interesting to see. We said a bit about Essendon's distribution and their new midfield looking to push Geel a bit more to the outside. So whether that's wing, whether that's halfback, he's not as needed in the guts anymore. One person that they were introducing, we saw him a bit last year, but should have put his first name. I think it's Elijah Sartes. It's something like that. He's playing in the inside midfield. He used to play up forward last year. Sort of a bit floated in and out of games, So whether they're just giving him the reps, whether they plan to have him in the guts at times this year, he knows. But good to see him getting a few minutes. Apparently he played all right. Harvey Gallagher played off halfback. Again, he's one of those wingers that sort of had to shift a lot last year. And they're also playing Artie Jones on the wing. Apparently he had a pretty good game. I'm pretty sure he's a forward normally, so...
Okay.
Yeah, the Bulldogs are just trying to finesse that position. We talked about it in the preseason, but, obviously their back half transition needed a bit of work. So it's good to see that at least tinkering, even though I've said before that Beveridge goes a bit too tinker heavy, hopefully this is setting up for a more permanent positions, they'll have 1 or 2, 3 people they can go to rather than just constantly switching the magnets each game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's good that Tom Edwards made it onto the list. Again, as you said, they needed forwards, they need good depth. Um, it's nice to see Essendon actually changing some stuff up rather than just sticking to what they already had. Um, and who knows? Maybe it'll make all the difference. But again, they're also still not playing at 100% full strength as per most teams. So we can.
Yeah. I think for Essendon, it's like with the young list, it's good to see that sort of win. You know what I mean? It's like there's still a lot of young people playing. So,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
they're
good to
getting
help their match
involved.
fitness going into the season as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it'll at least show signs that they've got a few players that, you know, you might not have seen who may be capable of coming into the side.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next game. The one that unfortunately had a very tragic injury late in the fourth.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Well,
third,
late in
sorry.
the third. They called off the fourth. Was it?
Yeah, it was in the
Was it? I
third.
don't
It was,
remember.
it was in the third
Yeah.
quarter.
I think they had extended quarters or something. It was a bit weird. Um, but yeah, so Sam Lamer, number one pick. Sam Laylor, number one pick. Suffered a fractured jaw after lay shove into the contest by now defender Ruben Gibney. We talked about it a bit before on, you know, our view on that shove, how, you know, probably could tighten up. The AFL hasn't come out and said anything, but I would be very surprised if it wasn't hot topic considering it was, you know,
Yeah, I think
the
in the
number
AFL
one pick.
media it's been a bit of a hot topic, but it's
Yeah.
not too much on it.
The AFL hasn't come out and said anything in the meantime, though, because I've been trying to keep an eye out for most things. But in terms of the Eagles themselves, a lot of their small forwards featured. Brockman, Dua, always all contributed a fair bit, which is probably good to see. I mentioned that before, that the Eagles on ground level were probably a bit lacking behind their taller options. So hopefully that might carry across. Elijah Hewitt, who I mentioned before, very strong in the midfield.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon is a case for a round one selection. I think it's round one. I don't think the Eagles are playing zero,
No,
but
they're not playing opening round.
that'll be a pain. Midfield minutes for Jack Hutchinson. He saw a tiny bit last year. And Seth Campbell, who
Who's normally a
I want to
forward.
say,
He's normally forward.
yeah, he normally plays a bit more forward. I don't think he's had too many guts time, but played a bit there. So as I said, a bit like the others I've been mentioning with Dartsies, I think it's more of a case of just getting minutes to overall add to the development. And I finished off saying, because I forgot it was that match, the injury to Hugo Ralph Smith,
Yeah, very
which is
sad.
very unfortunate for Richmond. Not too much good news for them coming out of this preseason.
No, it's hasn't been a great sign. But props to West Coast for, making some adjustments themselves and, getting a solid win out of three quarters that will hopefully, I mean, granted it is
Yeah.
against us, you know, we're also a bottom four team, but like
Yeah.
it's good for them to just have, get some solid fitness into their young players as well and hopefully get a little bit of momentum going into their next preseason match and then round one.
Yeah. Did you get to watch this match or you at work?
I watched a bit of it. I didn't really catch all too much of it
Yeah.
because it started when I was at work, so I kind of only watched like highlights.
I bet it started early for us too. I think they put this game on at like
Yeah, it was like 9, 10
9 or
a.m.
10
Yeah,
a.m. in WA. One of our friends went to the game. Snap, he's been on the podcast before. And, you know, as I said, he's very much on the ground level going to all these sort of things.
he is.
Yeah, otherwise it was a pretty
Just
tepid preseason match.
follow up shout out to Snap from last week as well, also for helping us with a couple of photos from the All Stars game as well.
Yeah, yeah, because as I said, my photo taking. I gotta get a new phone one time, but I don't use my phone all that much. I'm very much sort of always used to using laptops and all that sort of thing.
Valid.
So yeah, yeah, my camera could use some work, but we hope you enjoyed that because it was quite nicely done. I thought so.
Yeah, I thought it
Yeah,
added a little bit extra to last week because it was a special game.
yeah. So shall we move on to Geelong Hawthorn?
We shall.
All right. So Bailey Smith and Ollie Henry both featured well in a high-scoring practice match. Rookie Connor O'Sullivan for the Cats played very well, apparently. McGuinness, in terms of role switches, played half forward. He's someone that was probably a bit more wing. And we talk about it, and we'll probably go a bit more in depth after I finish this. Hardwick and Sicily featured in the attack, while Sam de Koning played predominantly ruck. Again, take that with a grain of salt, because obviously in this period, you're more likely to test out some of your backup ruckmen more than your firsts. So, but he might be featuring
Well, I mean,
in a few ruck roles.
pretty sure Sam de Koning and Tom de Koning's developments at both of the teams have been very similar. So, and obviously we've seen them match up in the ruck before, as they did last year.
Yeah.
So we know that they're like Sam is definitely capable of taking a number one ruck position, but whether he wants that's something that Geelong want to go forward with. On a more like normal basis, considering Reece Stanley is probably going to retire at some point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because you think if he does, they would want to debut a tall rookie down back this year.
Yeah.
As I said, Sam de Koning is still a fairly reasonable defender. Technically, the stats said he dropped off a bit last year, but he's still young. Like, it was more just his first year was very good.
Yeah, 100%.
So, you know, I could see it happening. It's just, and I think, you know, as I said, every preseason, get the reps into him, give him the switch up in training, or if there's like a positional need for them to try and change up the ruck, go for it. But I still think he'll be playing in defense predominantly. But one thing I will say is I do think Hardwick is going to be almost a permanent forward this year. It just seems to make the most sense.
We were theorizing
where
it
Hawthorn's at.
Like during the off season when they signed Battle and Barras, and like with how stacked their backline was, we were theorizing who would move forward. Sicily made sense because he's able to play both ends, and I always theorized Hardwick because he was originally recruited as a forward and was able to play both ends. So it made a lot of sense, and it's good to see that like Hawthorn and Sam Mitchell are actually willing to try it.
Yeah, because as I said, we mentioned that, you know, with those two big recruits are already going to, you know, it was a solid base last year. Like, I don't think the Hawks were like top 5 defense, but they weren't too far off the pace. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
they were pretty close to it.
Yeah, but you know, I said, well, you add team up. You know what I mean? Like, the plus and minuses from the players you're replacing over sort of get a bit negligible when you're replacing top talent with top talent, or, you know, or reasonable talent with top talent. But, you know, if that opens up for a few position switches, again, I still think Sicily is going to be like a per game basis. But I think Hardwick will probably play forward, and he gets a bit of experience up there because it's easy to forget he's the former captain of the club. I think it was for like 2 years. It was a bit weird. But,
yeah, it would have been like a brief period because I can mostly remember Sicily, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think Sicily was more recent,
like
but
2021, 2022.
Yeah, it might have been that sort of era.
So it was. I don't even know who was before Hardwick.
Actually, I can picture him, but I can't remember the name.
I was gonna say it wasn't between.
It's a player that's retired now, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't straight from Sam Mitchell. Oh, sorry, not Sam Mitchell. Luke Hodge.
No, it wasn't because it went from Hodge to Roughhead, and then Roughhead passed it on, and I can't remember who was between that. I can picture the player, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah. Anyway, so a bit of experience in that forward line,
and plus,
which is young.
As we also talked about, like their forward line, especially their tall forwards, if any of them go down, they're at a bit of a risk. So having that extra flexibility is also beneficial to them.
And as I said, I think that's why Sicily's playing a bit of attack. So you know what I mean? As I said, intercept defending, it's in his vein, and Sicily sort of attacks the ball. Anyway, you know what I mean? His forward philosophy is not that much different.
No, it's not.
From his backup philosophy. So, you know, you get the luxury to doing that with your veterans. So, again, a bit of proactiveness from Sam Mitchell. As I said, so Hawthorn, as I mentioned, had a lot of outs in this game. and they also sat down a few early like Battle and Scrimshaw. So even though it was technically I guess it wasn't that big a margin. 86 to 106. That's only 20 points.
It's only 20 points. Yeah, it's not too bad.
In terms of scoring shots, it was a big margin, but they didn't play much of that back line. So it was being Battle, Scrimshaw not playing, Barras didn't play. So yeah, it was pretty young in the back line. It's not, don't be looking at this and saying, oh, Hawthorn's back
Doom and
line's
gloom
so
Hawthorn
great.
fans. Oh no.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, they were mainly doing the forward line. I think they were probably playing a bit free. Plus, Geelong's a pretty good team to do that against. They're not that defensively restrictive anyway, so I think this was just a practice match where both teams were wanting to fire up the offenses a bit, rev the engines, and sort of happened. So
yeah, just
probably both teams will be happy with this.
have a solid shootout, which is pretty much what happened. So
yeah. And that said, Ollie Henry, I don't know if you saw one of his goals from the boundary line, because I'm not sure if this was when you left or not, but it was a beauty. A snap on the pocket, very acute angle. Yeah, he's going to be a very exciting player for Geelong.
Goal of the year in the preseason.
Yeah, best goal all year. I mean, it is the best goal all year. There's been no others
so far.
So yeah, I mean, he's not going to win the car for getting preseason goal of the year, but I don't know. Maybe we can send him a one plastic rose or something for winning the coast to coast preseason goal of the year.
Yeah, we've still got a week of preseason matches to go. Hold your horses.
Maybe.
All right,
maybe.
Let's jump over to the round robin game of Brisbane, Gold Coast.
The triple header. Yeah. Sort of like yeah. I was gonna say it makes it sound like a weird thing, but it's basically just a round robin format. No three teams at once, no multi-ball, unfortunately, but still a pretty good run. So it's hard to go through each match, so I just, highlighted each team in one dot point.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest thing, unfortunately, for Gold Coast, who did look very good, mind you, was Leon Lombard dislocated their shoulder after a fortunate bump. Jed Walters and Ethan Reid performed very well up forward, which is, again, great to see from the Gold Coast. I also thought that Humphreys was pretty good as well. He sort of floated up a bit, provided a bit of connection. But yeah, again, Gold Coast sent in a, I'll still say reasonably experienced side. They played pretty well. Again, it was a bit of low pressure, so, that tends to be when Gold Coast playing well, but it just sort of suited them. High intercepting team in the preseason where there's a lot of kicks to be chopped off and all that sort of thing. So, at least some signs that they're playing to the game plan and all that sort of thing. So, bit of a nice tick for Gold Coast in that.
Very nice.
Brisbane, probably the next best performer of this list. Again, their youth up forward did absolutely fantastic. Gallup, who was a late round draft pick in this year's draft, and Morris, who obviously played very well last season, getting both involved, but Gallup was the accurate one. I think he kicked, I think it was 3 or 4, 3 all up for the night, and, was presenting well up front. Rayner also did a few things up forward. He was almost playing, I wouldn't quite say like Charlie Cameron, but you know what I mean? Like, he was, maybe like a bit like what's his name that aspires to play for you? Rankin. You know what I mean? Exciting midfield that goes up forward. So yeah, a bit more offensively involved than he sometimes is. And Collingwood, unfortunate position. They had to wait in between, so they had the most awkward one. So they played first. 30, well, what is it? Yeah, it's probably actually a 40-minute wait, and then playing again. So the one downside for these triple headers is that one team normally gets a bit screwed like that. Thankfully, it's Collingwood because they get so much else handed to them. Sorry, Collingwood fans. Yeah, all I can really say about them, because they didn't really have any injuries, didn't really have any huge positional changes. So, yeah, it was just their movement on the back half seemed a bit awkward. But apart from that, their forward line connection was okay. A few young players played pretty well. Yeah, I think West kicked a couple of goals. Who I think he might actually be a VFL player that they're thinking about not 100% sure. And there was another one, midfielder, had a bit of hype behind him, but yeah, as I said, will probably be easier to see once they get a 4-quarter game, who they're looking to rotate a bit. Yeah, these games aren't that great to tell much of anything. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
not
the whole
really.
game changes over 4 quarters.
Especially when
So
there is no
um,
real like official AFL sort of rundown of these, because you have to try and find information from other places, and this is really hard to
uh,
really get it
well,
all at
I mean,
once.
honestly, the AFL website actually does have a good breakdown. That's where I got most of these from, because as I said, I just condensed it. But you know what I mean? Like, there's no stats that come out. Or it's hard to compare different people, different players.
Yeah, because
So
I don't think the
you're just
players
going off
in these match
vibes.
sims are officially tracked. But I know in like the actual preseason matches, like the ones coming up this week, they are officially tracked, and that all will go on the website, which
Yeah.
is going to be very helpful.
Well, when we say officially trapped, they'll be tracked by the clubs, but
Yeah, but I mean,
nothing
like
that
have like
comes
the
out.
actual like stat trackers in their backs and stuff.
Yeah, champion data probably can't be bothered setting that up for a preseason game, so I don't blame them. They hoard a lot of stats, but I don't blame them for that. So
No, it's all good. All right, let's jump over
um,
to the Battle for
yeah,
the
Battle
Bridge
of the
preseason
Bridge.
clash.
And it's an Amadi party again. Went big with 6. Braden Campbell. I saw him in Sydney. Sort of as a high half forward. Sometimes plays on the wing.
Mm-hmm.
He kicked 4 goals against GWS. GWS didn't really fire a shot, but I think GWS was one of the more B side of all the teams. You can see Hogan kick 3, but for the most part, they were really thin, especially in the back line. I don't think oh, what's his name? I don't think either of the two played in Sam Taylor or trying to think of the other one.
Is
I
it?
like him.
It's
Completely blanking.
I can see him. Can't remember
Yeah.
his name.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. The main two backmen. Um. Anyway, so Cody Ango featured in GWS's midfield. He's from this year's draft. Got 2 goals from 50-meter penalties, so that will make his game look a bit better. He might be edging towards selection anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Stone and Darcy Jones, who had featured a bit last year, also did very well apparently. And the biggest thing the most interesting thing that raised a few question marks, because I did read a few things about a few players training in different positions, but I didn't know everything, so this was a surprise to me. But Tom McCartan, he played in the forward line and has apparently been training there. It was a very wet game, so he didn't do that well. But yeah, as I said, it's just a bit of a weird one for me. But also worth mentioning, Lekalia, he tried a bit of a hit out in the ruck, but struggled against Laddams and Grundy in terms of positional switch ups. But yeah, we had a tiny bit of talk about it. But Tom McCartan playing as a forward, is this? I have doubts that this is a good long term move if they're like really gunning for it.
Yeah, I
But I
feel
could
like
definitely see in times of need why they might be flirting with him up forward.
I definitely feel like it is going to be more of maybe a short form idea, and then maybe just like yeah, if they need that extra set of hands up forward, they can throw him up forward. But I don't think it's going to be a permanent move.
Yeah, like of all Sydney's problem last year, like I know they didn't technically get that much goals out of their forwards, but it's not like their efficiency was bad. They were just finding other avenues.
Yeah, it
But
was just mostly their
defense was where
midfielders
they were
that were having the
yeah,
impact.
defense was where they were getting exposed. They don't have too many injuries in the forward line. We'll go through it, but a lot of their injuries are actually young players. So, um, although McLean and McDonald both didn't play, so that might also influenced it. McDonald might be a bit longer. McLean, I think, probably will come back this preseason game. But yeah, as I said, so maybe it's just as I said, to provide some structure for this preseason match.
Mhm.
But yeah, if I was Sydney, I wouldn't be putting McCartan in the back line. I would be putting McCartan in the back line. I just think they don't have enough, um, you know, uh, troops just to
Yeah,
be honest, back there in terms of height and experience. So
yeah, their depth forward line wise is pretty stretched at the moment. So I guess yeah, putting Tom McCartan as like a it's just an in case of emergency kind of switch. It's not a bad shout, but yeah, it's definitely more of like a short
yeah,
term idea.
I guess it's like, if Tom McCartan, you want Tom McCartan to be playing around round one. If Logan McDonald or whoever the other one I mentioned, um Hayden
McLean,
McLean,
yeah,
both don't end up in round one. That might be why they're doing that. So again, grain of salt. I just thought it was interesting.
yeah, for sure. All right, let's jump over now to the oh, I've already forgotten what it's called. The showdown. There we
Adelaide
go.
versus Port Adelaide.
Yeah,
Yeah, showdown. Port Adelaide lost, so preseason means nothing. As I've been
preseason
telling
meant
you.
nothing anyway.
Exactly. No, as I said, it was scrappy. I watched a bit of this, mainly the first two quarters, as I said. But Adelaide got clear offense going against Port's defense. Saligo had a pretty good game, kicked 3. The recruits for Port Adelaide did pretty good. Joe Berry and Lukosius found some good looks in Port's forward line. And new recruits for Adelaide, Neil Bullen and Pete Ling both performed strongly. Miles Bergman took a more defensive role,
Mm-hmm.
sort of out of force. And I didn't actually put it here, but Ryan Burton looked a bit proppy. I don't think he's at risk of missing any time, but he might not play next round's next preseason match.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, as I said, they're getting a bit thin on actual defensive uh, small defenders. Bergman's a bit mid-sized, but you know what I mean. And Finlayson also moved back at times too. He's trained there, so that might be an option to where, he might actually be a bit of a stopgap defender, because I guess for the majority of his career, he's played as like a forward that's played in the ruck,
mm-hmm.
but, you know, we've got I'm not going to say the best options, you know what I mean, up forward, but, like, I think it's actually at the point where Finlayson playing as a defender might actually be more efficient. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm not sure if that stays. It really depends on how long both Asava and Zerk Thatcher are going to be out for. And as I mentioned before, after the first half of Chunkville, Sandford players took over, had a bit of a kick, and by three-quarter time, almost every AFL listed player had sort of either majoritively gone on the bench or, been completely put on ice.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's not a bad idea to get the Sandfeld players in on the action. Like again, match fitness as well because the Sandfeld season's starting pretty soon, alongside the AFL season. So it's a good. And plus, that's the whole point of having a secondary team is your AFL listed players are going to be playing for Sandford at points in time. So there's no harm in just getting a bit of synergy amongst them as well. So there's as much as you want to see well, in your case, you want to see Port Adelaide beating Adelaide. There's no harm in just giving more players who aren't exactly going to see an AFL field just some decent AFL match fitness, essentially.
Yeah, and I was a bit surprised, honestly, because I didn't watch the back half, but like Port Magpies haven't really been going that well. So the fact that they actually brought it back, I was a bit surprised at. But it was a very windy, high turnover game. And it was just one of these things. Like, yeah, there was a lot of contested possession, but they weren't going too hard at it. So I think this is like an agreed upon match to, it'd be like, hey, we're more about getting the offense going, looking at positions. So we're not going to go too hard. You're not going to go too hard. We're just going to have the run around, basically. So
Yeah, I figured that would be
that's
the
what it sort of
case.
felt like. And yeah, Adelaide probably, I mean, both teams aren't that great on ground level, but yeah, as I said, Adelaide just seemed to have a few bits and pieces that sort of led them to win a lot more ground ball from what I was watching. Again, that's where players like Pete Ling, um, even someone like Pedler,
Mm-hmm.
Dan Curtin, he had a pretty good game. I know he's a bit of a smoky to win the NAB Rising Star this year, a bit of an unknown factor, but definitely at least put the right step forward in this preseason game. I think he was one of the players that featured in most quarters. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the rookies also still played. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And the other thing to mention too is because I was actually doing on Reddit the Port Adelaide write up, and basically it's just similar to what we did, but a bit more, um, wider scope sort of thing. More talking about the obvious stuff. And I was doing the best 22, and I think it'll be very interesting because Darcy Byrne-Jones is still playing in the forward line.
Mm-hmm.
So is Sam Pepe is floating there. But the sounds of it, they're really keen on um, Joe Berry and Josh Richards playing. Both one's the trading recruit from Collingwood, the other one being our first draft pick. So it's going to be interesting what lineup they play, because if they play all of them with, maybe one sub, it's a very small forward-ish lineup, which, is much is very much where we suffered last year.
Yeah.
Um,
We suffered
so
a lot from the lack of height and being able to play in the air.
yeah, no, actually, I disagree a bit on that.
I
I thought it was more when the ball went to ground, sort of thing. Um, well, I guess what you mean is like the easy shots slash the harder contested marks we didn't take enough of.
yeah, it's just kind of more my
Because we got a lot
painful.
of wide marks. Yeah. And obviously that sort of comes with, Dixon starting to not be able to take contested marks anymore.
Mm.
He could only force the balls at ground level to, let's face it, below average AFL forwards. So yeah, so as I said, I was interested because I thought Darcy Byrne-Jones would definitely switch back, because we need a bit of run and distribution on the back. Again, with Mars Bergman going back, we might see it next week if Burton's out, but yeah, it'll just be interesting to see what Port's first lineup looks like, because it could be a whole lot of combinations. But we could see both Berry make his debut, even maybe on field, if he, overtakes Jackson Mead, who, is a forward that plays midfielder, because we got a lot of them. Like, you know what I mean? With Sam Pepper being back, that's sort of an improvement already over Mead's position, so he might be forced into the sub role. But yeah, that's just a few random thoughts I had from watching that.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see a bit more from the next lineup, what's actually looking like to happen or not. But
Yeah, we will. Who knows? The future is 50-50 right now. All right, let's jump
talking
down.
about the future,
St Kilda and
yeah,
Carlton, which
the kids, please.
as we talked,
The kids.
I know there's a lot of kids in this game.
Yeah, especially for St Kilda, and I think honestly, behind the Suns, St Kilda might have actually been one of the more impressive, or like, what, positive signs preseason match, because I know there was a few floggings, but
Mm.
as I said, a team of mainly kids against a okay-ish Carlton lineup, and they did quite well. The kids that impressed, I didn't watch much of this, but I did listen to a few fans who was a Saints fan, again, Wooden Spoon Data, Wooden Spoon Analytics. I forgot the exact channel name, but yeah, I just call him Wooden Spoon. He's a Saints fan, so he's been going on about some of the kids, especially Boxall. He's very excited about. Then Liam O'Connell obviously did very good on the wing. Hugo Garcia also took some good mid minutes, so I guess we've been talking about some young kids from the Saints who could maybe step up to provide some more midfield structure. So again, they might be looking at that. For Carlton, Jesse Motlop took some nice snags, and Carroll probably showed he was worth relisting as a rookie. He SSP, I'm pretty sure, one of the two. So he had a good game, which is good. And the biggest news out of all this, pick number 3 in the draft, Jagger Smith, had an injury in the game. They were sweating on him, and it was the worst possible scenario. He did an ACL. He's out for most, if not all, of 2025,
Yeah,
and that's a
that's
pretty big blow.
very rough, especially when Carlton had such high hopes for him as well.
Yeah, like they were pretty. Well, again, I haven't watched like every coach breakdown, but from what I gather from the noise, like he was pretty much like, yeah, he's gonna play and he's gonna play in the middle. You know what I mean? So not only do you lose that piece, but you know what I mean? It's like they would have been training around that idea that he was going to be a contributing part of the midfield unit. So
Yeah,
they have to look at somewhere else. Sorry, I just realized how much I butchered
you
Kamanides'
did butcher
name.
Caminiti. I only just caught it as you changed
Yeah,
it.
yep. So he played forward after training in defence to cover King, and Ollie Hollands moved to halfback. Again, we mentioned this in the Carlton analysis a while ago. Well, it probably would be. That was probably a month ago we started the analysis. It's a bit more.
Yeah, it's been a while now.
Um, but, we mentioned that Ollie Hollands may be one of the ones that cover the Nick Newman loss. So we saw a lot of him on halfback. Again, we'll know next week because obviously they've got a few players like Doherty or Williams.
Hmm.
I think Williams might have played, but don't think he played much. So, as we'll see. And obviously Caminiti, whether he plays for, where he plays defence, will obviously depend on how St Kilda will structure their forward line. But honestly, again, it's a bit like what's his name? Finlayson for Port Adelaide. Like
Yeah,
Caminiti, he had a very good debut year, got injured, and then has just been a bit middling as a forward option. And I just got a gut feeling the way they're St Kilda play, I think they'll be quite happy with a King and Sharman forward line. Sharman's shown a bit. King,
when King
is
isn't
still getting
injured,
it.
can still play.
When he's not injured, and let's face it, when he hasn't got much support, so you know what I mean. But like when I mentioned last year about how they seem to be playing better with a smaller lineup,
Mm.
um, I do think as I said, Caminiti will play back. Wood will sometimes drift into the forward line.
Hmm.
And I think they'll just play it like that. So, yeah, I could actually see Caminiti move back to defense after Kings gets back in, but it's very handy to have a switch player like that. And yeah, as I mentioned, Saints sort of need that tall defender with the loss of Battle. They're very thin. They've still got, well, sorry, with Tauru also being injured as well.
Yes.
They're looking for a player to help and come back into the side and support there.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think Caminiti has the height and the body to be able to play a similar position that Battle had. It'll just take him, yeah, a bit more time to, fit into that defensive back line rather than being that super flexible player that he is. No, that he's becoming, I should say.
Yeah. Because I said, like, he's not that great on the ground, but they got enough forwards where if you just say, hey, get your spoils up, knock it forward, they got plenty of small halfbackers, like your um Nasiah Wangani Malira,
Hmm.
Jack Sinclair, if
Yeah.
he's back there. It's probably another one too, but I'm forgetting. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I think he could be like a plug and play, either stopgap or maybe even turn into a defender.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's jump down now to North Melbourne v Melbourne.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to put too much stock into it, but it was just in general nice to see. Again, I didn't watch this, but apparently, Clary looked to show signs that he was past his 2024 woes. Impressed very well. Some of the other rookies that impressed: Harvey Langford for Melbourne, Xavier Lindsay, and Matt Jefferson.
Hmm.
Jefferson, no, he wasn't the one that got pinched from the Eagles, was it?
No, I don't think
I can't remember.
so.
No. Anyway, and surprisingly, Harry Sharp, Brisbane pickup, he's got 4 goals. Like, he's been known to take a shot in it here and now. Plays wing, probably could be a half forward flanker.
Hmm.
But yeah, as I said, that was nice to see by him, as did Van Royen, probably someone you more expect to kick 4 goals, especially in a preseason match.
Yep.
Um, I will say, although there was a big score kicked against him, I think North will be happy just to get some reps into their defensive core, as Logue, Court, McDonald, and Archer all played, as well as Kirby McKercher, but he's obviously a bit more transition. Still defensively solid, I think, McKercher for a young player, but yeah. Again, more hurt as Andy Monners Wakefield suffered an ACL knee injury and is out for 2025. Also, Marty Hoare, a defender, suffered a hand injury and will be assessed. Don't think that there's any news on how long that will be, but that's likely to be a 1 or 2 weeker sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
that hurts the depth for pretty much one most of the pretty much all of the season on that ACL, and then two like at least the first couple of weeks on the hand injury.
Yeah, well, Mona's Wakefield, like, it's definitely more of a transitional loss, which, again, Melbourne were a bit mediocre with at times last season. And then Marty Hall, like, again, he's someone that you might be priming to take over eventually, take over either May or Lever's job as a big body defender. So, played a lot last year, was pretty solid. So it's a bit of a shame, but hopefully he's not too long out the park. And Harrison Petty, talking about defensive stocks being bolstered, is finally free to play defense against this season. Melbourne fans will be rejoicing. And I must admit, like, Melbourne's defense last year was pretty good, and I'm not going to say it, like, improves or anything, but you know what I mean? It's like, that's probably the area where they might be looking to actually be a top 8 team this year. You know what I mean?
It gives them
like
having Petty down there gives them a little bit more consistency in the back line.
Yeah,
because they had
a
fair few amount of dips either when Lever or May were out. But
exactly,
they were still good, but yeah, they weren't as good as they could have been. But having Petty finally, hopefully, down there full time will go a long way for them.
Exactly. So, as I said, their forward line probably isn't fixed. As I said, Petty bang there just means that they've got enough certainty about the future of their players to be backing in whatever forward line they pick.
Yeah,
just to mention, Tommy Sparrow kicked 2 goals. Again, missed almost all last year. So that was good to see as well.
Excellent. And then we have the upcoming matches, the last preseason matches before the season officially starts. So tomorrow night, as we're recording this, Tuesday the 25th, is Geelong v Essendon down at Goomba Stadium, as you like to call it, a 7:20 game. Wednesday night, Feb 26th, the day this podcast episode goes out, Richmond v Collingwood at Icon Park, 7:10 game. I might be there. We'll see. Thursday night, Feb 27th, is Hawthorn and the Western Bulldogs down in Tassie at the University of Tasmania Stadium. That's a 5:20 game, and then Brisbane and Adelaide at Brighton Homes Arena, which is up in Queensland, at 8:10 or 7:10 p.m. local time AEST. Friday, February 28th, GWS versus Carlton at Manuka Oval in Canberra, 5:20 p.m. And then Gold Coast and Sydney at People First Stadium, 8:10 p.m. Or 7:10 p.m. AEST. On Saturday, March 1st, St Kilda and Port Adelaide play at RSEA Park, just down the road from me, actually. It's not far from me. That's a 3:10 game. And then West Coast v North Melbourne at Hands Oval in Bunbury, 6:10 p.m. AEDT game, or 3:10 p.m. at local time, Perth time. And then Sunday, March 2nd, the last one before round 0 is Fremantle and Melbourne at Rushton Park in Mandurah, a 6:10 p.m. game AEDT, and a 3:10 p.m. game Western Australian time.
Daylight saving, it's a bugger, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's not until we don't exit daylight savings for another few weeks.
Yeah, it's normally the first 3 or 4 weeks of AFL season. Honestly,
yeah, it's usually like
I might just be a degenerate.
mid April to the end of
4 o'clock
April,
start.
I think, is when it transitions over. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's normally around Easter.
It depends when you get off work in WA. Like, if you're a 3 o'clock finisher, like the 4 o'clock start, you settle down, you have a shower, you watch your team play. It's not too bad. And then maybe even get time to go out during the night if you feel like it. Not a bad time slot. But yeah, as I said, for most people, 5:20, 5:40 is probably better.
Well, I mean, yeah, but once that seems it's over, we go back to the 2 hour time zone difference, and then it's much
Yeah.
easier to handle.
I think we've had this discussion before, but I'm definitely a Saturday afternoon sort of fan. I like going to the football if I'm going to a match and then be able to go somewhere afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like maybe dinner, maybe a night out. Not that I have too many of those. But you know what I mean. So Saturday night, yeah, I don't mind it. I feel like in the eastern states, I just don't understand watching the football at like 9 o'clock. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm always tired all the time. Part of me is like, if it's a bad game, I'm just like considering going to bed. You
It,
know,
it
half time's like at 8:30.
It yeah,
Like,
it normally depends on like a specific match, because like marquee games will normally start at like so maybe a
yeah,
little bit later if they're doing like a whole like a pre-ceremony sort of thing, like your Anzac Eves and stuff like that. Um and your Dream Times and Queen's Birthday, stuff like that. Otherwise, yeah, I would definitely prefer the afternoon or twilight games, as they're otherwise known as. Just
mm,
because you're able to, you if you want to go out in the nighttime, you can go out in the nighttime, or yeah, you have a little bit. You have less time kind of in the mornings to do some stuff if you want to do some stuff, but it's not too bad otherwise.
yeah. But like, if you're in WA, you're watching like some of the first games at 10 a.m. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, like 10:40, I think, is some of the earliest matches that you get with the daylight saving time. So, yeah, it's always funny. But yeah, as I said, grand final though, like that can be, as you said, standalone games. Like if it's something you can bring mates over and watch it, like that can take the main stage.
Yeah, 100%. Like I I I have no issues with like slightly shifting the grand final like start time. Like I think having it
Mm.
as a twilight game, I think is kind of like the right spot for it, which is what it already is. I think it's like a 3:20 start, something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't really reach Twilight, but yeah, I know what you
It's
mean.
close enough to it,
Yeah,
but I feel like yeah, I think the transition from like late afternoon into like the evening would go really well for a grand final rather than having it all be in the afternoon. To be honest, but
yeah. As I said, I'm not too fast, but yeah, I like the grand final where it is, but for me, it's like an afternoon thing in WA, so it's always a bit different from the eastern states anyway.
yeah, well, that's the thing with time zones, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the preseason injuries that we know about so far. We still have a week to go,
Yeah,
and we're hoping no one else does an
I know.
injury, but we have a list.
So yeah, as I said, I sort of shifted this list from this article. It had all of them from about last week, but it sort of didn't update the people that have returned to the preseason. So I removed them from the list, and also, um, yeah, 50 players went down afterwards. So we're gonna have a little talk about this. Starting from an optimistic side, Adelaide, they've only got one to worry about. Kieran Strawn, Ruckman, Foot. I don't think it was always going to be out for all of 2026. 2026? 2025. I hope it's not out of all of 2025, 6, but yeah, so he's been SSP replaced by McAndrews. Kieran goes into the long term. They did all this very last minute, so I think that's why the news of this SSP has come out a bit later. Um, but it is approved by the AFL, so yes, they'll be missing him, but that's all of the season, and it's an interesting one because he's out of contract at the end of this year.
Yeah.
Featured a bit last year, again a bit on the outer, so yeah, it might be his last season. He might be looking towards playing Sandford or trying to find another avenue to get back into it. But one door opens, another door. One door closes, another door opens. For
Yes.
McAndrews, who used to play for Sydney.
Yes, that's right. And whilst thankfully for Adelaide, it is only one injury. Like we know that Strawn can actually play, like, and can actually have a pretty solid effect in that team. But hopefully, he won't be missed too much in terms of like their entire sort of system.
Well, it was a bit awkward when they dropped. I'm gonna say Sean Jacobs. That's a bit of a throwback. Whew, what's his name?
Who did they drop for him? I can't remember now.
Insulted Nick Nat Nui. Oh, why am I blanking so hard? This is the problem is I've like relaxed now that I'm off writing up a lot of these things, but now I've just forgotten everything.
If we remember it, we'll come back to it. We should move on.
Yeah, whoever Adelaide's recommended. Ronnie O'Brien.
Oh, O'Brien, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's gonna. I think
anyway.
O'Brien's still the number one rock there, so there's not too much competition.
Yeah, well, I was saying it was like that awkward period last year where they dropped O'Brien due to form. But yeah, Kieran Strawn, he was okay, but he was definitely a bit project, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Maybe they're just looking to, I'll say, booster that in case O'Brien doesn't deliver. We'll go to Brisbane, who unfortunately have a few more of the longer term ones. We'll start off light. I know I didn't list this the best, but Darcy Gardner, Eric Hipwood, Eric Hipwood, Luke Lloyd, and Lincoln McCarthy. Henry Smith and Braden Starcevich. All of those, they're predicted to come back, be around round one. But they're, haven't featured in a preseason match so far.
Mm-hmm.
Lincoln McCarthy, Luke Lloyd, Darcy Gardner, Tom Doedee, all are looking to be around early season to mid-season. And Keodine Coleman hasn't got a time frame for his ACL injury, so
even though he was the first one who did it last season, mid-season, which is a little weird.
Yeah, I think that they mentioned that he had a bit of hiccup in his recovery. Not so much from what he did. Well, if it was, I wouldn't have any idea. But you know what I mean? Like, there may have been a little setback in his rehab. So, unfortunately, that's still a bit of a chunk of players. I guess we'll talk about it now because I don't know how much we're going specifically. But Brisbane, I think a lot of people are sort of predicting not so much a drop off, but you know what I mean? Like, I think people are putting them out of top 4 contention, and I think a lot of it's got to do with his early injury list.
I'm not really paying all that much attention to that noise because like they played most of the season with at least 4 of these players out.
Yeah,
maybe 5 because I don't think Starcevich played every game. So like they already know they have.
Nice. Yeah,
they already know they have the depth to be able to play a season now without like these 4 of these players being McCarthy, Gardner, Doedee, and
McCarthy, Doedee, Coleman.
Yeah. And the only issue, as we've already kind of talked about, was the loss of Danaher, which it already seems like they've been able to kind of at least temporarily solve. Granted, preseason doesn't mean all that much, but like they've already shown signs that they've been able to fill that spot already.
Oh, I said even if they have an injury, as I said, the kid who did what's his name? I have to go back for it.
Harry, no, it's not Harry Sharp. He moved on.
Gallup, Gallup.
That's right.
Like they've already got a player that could just be depth. You know what I mean? So, So honestly, again, I'll still put him top 4, but like this is sort of edging towards slightly concerning. You know what I mean? There's teams that are worse, but it's definitely not.
Yeah, it's kind of the Hipwood and Starcevich ones that are kind of the biggest standards because they were like they did play for most of last season.
Yeah, and as the Starcevich is just preseason. Like we should see him next match. If he doesn't come up next match, then it's maybe looking to be
probably play round 0.
Missing opening round.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But he should be on track for a round 0. It's just more the players that are coming back. They're now lost a season of football without having a preseason. I think that's a big thing. So
yeah, it is.
We'll see how that affects them. Going on to Carlton, who are unfortunately not too many, but very big.
Yeah, they're very impactful outs.
Yeah. Sam Walsh being a big out, but only, a preseason thing. I think they're just nursing him. He had a bit of a hamstring complaint. Should feature next preseason match, but if not, again, maybe he's a round 1 doubtful, or round 0, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to some of the big ones. Charlie Corneau, he's got a bit of a knee complaint and could miss a bit of the early season.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Chincotta, he's still dealing with that hip he got late last year and might come back mid-season. And the two all ruled out for 2026. What am I doing? I think that's like coming back 2026, but
Yeah, I assume that's
ruled
what
out.
you meant, coming back 2026.
Yeah,
But
whatever.
yeah, Jagger Smith, as we already
but-
talked about before, and Nick Newman, who's
yeah,
a massive
Nick
out
Newman.
for Carlton.
Mm,
Yeah, it's look, it is granted, I have faith in Carlton's depth and their pre-existing players, and Cripps in, all in, the kind of mentality that they already have with that.
yeah. I
Uh,
won't say I actually have faith in their depth, but I think I have faith that this isn't enough to test their depth yet.
yeah, I think
Like, they
I
can
think
get
they'll be
over
fine
this.
for the early rounds, and then when they get Kerno back and Walsh back,
Yeah.
they should be good to go for the most part. But
It's
yeah,
just, yeah, so
the
I wouldn't
Jagger
want
Smith
too
one is
much
just
more.
Jagger Smith one is
Yeah.
sad because he was their big draft pick. Nick Newman just sucks because he's been a great player for them past couple of seasons. And yeah, Chincotta, a good role player. Hopefully he gets back in good form and good health.
Yeah. And I should say, again, while I was talking about earlier, with Jagger Smith being out, I mentioned in the preseason wrap up for that, Cottrell, he was already seeing a few he was trained as a midfielder, midfielder, high half forward. Like, you could see him move to the midfield. And again, they still got the option of trialing out a Camperelli in the guts.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure if they play there in the preseason, but we'll probably take note of that come next set of matches.
Yeah. Well, especially considering they have two of them, may as well make use of one of them at least.
Yeah, exactly. Like, one's got to be good in the inside, surely.
Well, we know one's good at the forward
anyway.
because as we actually saw in the stats for the unofficial preseason matches, one of them did kick a goal. So I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how that went about.
I don't know which one's which.
Oh, it just says Camperelli,
but...
so I don't even know their first names.
Well, I think
one's
one's Ben. I think I can't remember the other one though. Anyway,
it's like when Adelaide had both the Crouches. You know what I mean? Like, I know they look different, but I still just lump their possessions together.
Yeah, it's like when obviously Richmond had both Daniel and Maurice Rioli. You kind of had to just pay attention just a little bit more, even though we already knew Daniel Rioli was pre-existing.
Daniel and Maurice are a bit more differentiated, but I know what you mean.
It's just like if you only just hear Rioli, you need to kind of know which.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay.
Oh, and the Dacos, obviously.
Dacos is another one. Oh, luckily Josh now plays outside, so it's a bit easier.
Yeah.
Going through their list, in least to most, Dan Houston is obviously the suspension. He'll be back after round one. Then we've got a bit of, a hard to find thing because John DeGoey is a bit interesting because it says doubtful for opening round, but you haven't really heard too much news about it. So this could be one that's lingering. It could be one where, they're just putting him on wool to be ready to go. And then Harry Demetia, he's just got a concussion, so it's probably the protocol time for him. So I don't think he was in contention, but he'll at least be playing VFL come round one. Then going slightly worse, Tom Mitchell, he's got a foot injury, and he is... Tom Mitchell?
No, that's correct.
Tom Mitchell.
Tom Mitchell is correct.
Yeah. For some reason, I felt like he didn't play for Collingwood anymore.
No, he still does.
I was thinking of
Trelaw.
Yeah, in spirit. TBC on a foot injury. He's a bit older, so you hate to see the non-time freight injuries on him, but...
former Brownlow medalist.
Yeah, well, as I said, it could be anywhere between early to mid-season. And obviously, Harvey Harrison from late last year, or maybe mid last year, will look to have a mid-season return from ACL. So, again, not terrible for Collingwood, but a few concerning things, especially Mitchell and maybe DeGoey.
Speaking of concerning things, Essendon's injury list is pretty stacked.
Yeah, some of these I had to move a bit for. But Essendon's... a few of them are just the preseason, so that's good. Some of like they had more, but like some of them, missed a bit. So the bad news is a lot of interrupted preseasons, probably a bit more than this list implies, but a lot of these players might be pushing for round one.
Yep.
So we're going Nick Kosh with concussion. He should be back round one if he's selected. Sam Durham missed the first preseason match, might be back for the next. We've got Ben Mackay, again, same thing, probably more putting him on ice. And then Jordan Ridley, still a bit unsure. They've put it as preseason. Again, there's a bit of worry it might be slightly worse. So that's a bit more of a week by week thing. Talking about doubtful for opening round, Darcy Parish still has a few back complaints. Alwyn Davey Jr. Is doubtful for opening round with his Achilles. And I think that's it. And then a few unknowns. Zach Johnson and Jade Nguyen. Both sort of rookies. Both have, I guess depends where the meniscus is. Both could be shoulders, but joint issues, I should probably say.
Yep.
And they don't have a time frame that I could find. Same with Archer Day Wicks. He's got a toe. I think it's actually broken, so
that might take a little bit longer than expected for Essendon fans.
Yeah. Well, again, we'll probably see more clearly when the official injury list comes out next week.
Yes.
And one of the bigger pains, Matt Guelphy, hamstring, and he's going to be out for early to mid, so it's a very bad hamstring injury. As we mentioned before, they lose a bit of forward line presence with that, so hopefully that might open the door for Isaac Keiko to feature. And maybe even that Essendon rookie, Edwards.
Yeah, entirely possible. Again, like Essendon, they managed to get some decent players out of the draft. Obviously, they've still got a couple of rookies that are on this injury list, obviously. But I think they have enough players at the moment that they're also still. They should be okay to at least contend for the first couple of rounds whilst in preseason.
You want one list more experienced player, you know what I mean? But yeah, like I think they'll still be roughly what you can expect from their list, even with their injuries. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think
they're just transitioning.
If they can get Mackay and Ridley back to at least decent form by the time opening round starts, if they play opening round, then they should be okay defensive wise at least.
Well, from what I've read, Mackay was more nursed. Because obviously ankle injury on a bigger player, you don't want to be aggravating that.
No, definitely.
Whereas Ridley could actually, again, be week by week. But for now, it's listed as just preseason.
Right.
Going to Fremantle now. A team that's, for the last few years, have had pretty bad injury concerns, but slightly gotten better. For the preseason, you've obviously heard talking about the Indigenous All-Stars. Alex Pearce is nursing an ankle. He's just going to be worked into the season. Maybe comes for the first practice match. Maybe just aims for round one. We don't know. Josh Draper. This was one that was announced between the week because this was I think it was an intra-club match. He does his hamstring and it's looking to be light. They're looking to get it scanned, but they're hoping it's just like a 2 or 3 weeker and he might be back for round one. Obviously, Fremantle don't play round 0, so they get that extra week. But otherwise, we don't know exactly for sure. Same with Switkowski. It's probably going to be a concussion protocol, which puts him back in the mix for round one. But again, we don't know exactly the later tests. Well, they probably know at the club, but they haven't released anything about it. So, Nat 5. He's doubtful for round one, but is working towards it. And youngster Odin Jones is ruled out for the entirety of 2025 with back complaints.
Yeah, I am very familiar with the. Is he a tall player, perchance?
I got a feeling he's like a tall rebound defender, but
okay. Yeah, in that case, I am
thinking of
very familiar with tall players and their back issues because we have had 1 or 2 of them on our list that have just had constant back complaints. To be fair, these players had basketball backgrounds, so which is a lot of back work in that sport. So it's not great to go transition, like especially from one sport to another with existing issues. Um, hopefully, hopefully his back issues aren't too bad. By the time end of season rolls around, and he can actually, get some game time. Because if he is a tall rebound defender, I think Freo will definitely take a good chance on that.
Yeah, not too sure. I think it's actually a ruckman now that I think about it. So
Yeah, that makes more sense actually. That
yeah,
that
because
fits more into us as well.
I think it was this year's draft because I'm looking at his waffle stats and it says play 2024 for Peel Thunder, so it's either this year or last year.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, as I said a few hit outs, a few goals. So yeah, as I said, either his it looks like a ruckman that sometimes swings forward. So don't know too much about him, but unfortunate. Especially if he is like a Sean Darski project replacement if he goes down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Haven't had too much luck getting healthy ruckman. Anyway,
Oops.
here's a nice and quick one. Geelong.
Aren't
Cam
Geelong just
Guthrie
blessed?
might miss the early season. Must feel nice.
Yeah, it must feel
Must
nice.
feel.
I can already
Um,
see how big my injury list is, and I don't want to talk about it.
yeah. Are you talking about like yours is in Richmond's or
Yes,
your
yeah, no,
personal
I'm
injury list,
specifically meaning
Blazy?
Richmond's. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, it's all right.
Alright,
I
so
meant,
yeah,
look,
can't they won't miss. Actually, they might miss Cam Guthrie a little bit, but I think they've got plenty of bases covered.
they played a lot without him last
Yeah,
year. You know what I
exactly.
mean? They used to
He's good veteran
post
talent to have in the team,
Guthrie.
but they've got plenty covered for the
Yeah,
most part.
probably. Yeah, even now, like his clearances have sort of dropped off as well. So yeah. Anyway, not too much to say
I'm
about that.
tempted. I'm
But
tempted to
they'll
just
like him back.
at Echo and say, "What does it feel like to be blessed with no injuries?" All right,
I'm pretty sure he'll be really enjoying it.
Gold Coast.
Look, can't complain. Gold Coast, again, pretty good. Only two actual injuries. Jed Walters is suspended, until round 2. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, 'cause
So it's a 2-round suspension then.
was he
I'm
suspended in a
guessing.
match sim, right?
Uh, I thought it might be the end of last year.
Might actually,
I
yeah, it
can't quite
was.
remember.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, it was.
Yeah, so it must be a 2-game because unless this is just wrong, it means round 0. He must be out for round 0 and round 1.
Yeah, I think so.
Preseason, again, Dan Rioli, he had a few knee issues. MCL, that is the medial crucial ligament.
Mm-hmm.
Cruciate, not crucial.
Thankfully,
although it is a crucial ligament.
Thankfully, not an ACL, which would be a lot worse.
Oh, you don't want anything to do. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't need to tell a Richmond supporter that.
No,
Stay away
do
from the
not.
knees. Yeah.
I find it okay. I do find it really funny though. That literally is he played every game last season, and then as soon as he leaves, he has an injury. I do find that a little bit funny.
Yeah. That's like the Richmond tax. You know, you get him, but he's got to suffer.
You leave, but you
get
get your leg broken in return.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, you don't want to think that it was someone with a baseball bat as he was walking out, but
I don't know. There are a lot of Richmond fans up on the Gold Coast.
No, they wouldn't do that. We love Rioli.
We do.
Anyway, the big one, Leo Lombard, dislocated shoulder. Hopefully, it's just a couple of weeks to get it right, get that confidence marking again. But you know, either he comes back or you know, it takes a while to come back. Maybe plays a few, VFL games.
Yes, yeah, because there was an article released about it'll be 2 hours ago now, as we're recording this. That kind of just detailed when it happened, how it happened. There hasn't been an official ruling as of yet as to how long he'll be out. I believe scans happened today. So hopefully it's not too long and they can get him back on the park because again he's one of their big signings from the draft, and from the brief moment that we did see of him, he looks great.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, as I said, hopefully he'll come back because I did watch him a bit in the first game, and yeah, like he was present. I wasn't paying too much attention, but you definitely noticed him. So.
Yeah, sure.
GWS, a long list, but not actually injured, considering that a lot of these are the suspensions. So we'll just go through them quickly. Again, first 3 rounds. So Joe Fonte is out for them. This must be back round 3 because GWS play an opening round, and that would be the 3 matches. So
Yes.
Jed Walters would be back by round 1. So again, Josh Fahey back round 5, Joe Fonte back round 3, Toby McMullen and Jake Riccardi and Harvey Thomas.
You can keep Jake Riccardi out the whole season, for all I care.
You're not list manager for GWS.
No, I'm not. But maybe I should be.
Anyway, Stephen Cornelio, again, he's still dealing with the injury he had last year, but he's really just nursing himself back in. I don't think it's too much of an issue for round 1. Might even feature in the practice match. Again, round 0, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
There's still unsure about Sam Taylor, who's got the concussion. But again, you'd think that he'll be back for round 0, but if not, it's probably only missing 1 match.
I think in this case they're taking a little bit more precaution with him, considering the bad one he had earlier last season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I think he would, because it happened a while back. I remember reading it, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if they're sitting him out the whole preseason or just, whether it's actual positive test still. So, again, more clarification once the first injury list comes out.
Yeah.
But Ryan Angwin, no, sorry, he didn't play in the preseason match. Yeah, he'll be back in the early season, as well as Callum Brown. So the biggest thing for this is that GWS will be down a few tall forwards, so they may take a while to get that very hyped offense going. But it's still got also Hogan, Riccardi, Green, and not Riccardi, Stringer, and I said Riccardi. What I meant was Cadman.
Yes, which honestly, I think Stringer, Hogan, and Cadman is kind of all that they need down there right now, up there right now. I should say.
Oh, and Brent Daniels, of course.
Yes, of course.
Plays
the electric small forward.
Goal generator. Oh yeah, Tom Green as well. Calf, he was missing the early season. I forgot that. That will be a bit of a blur.
Yeah, that'll hurt their midfield transitions, but that they've got enough to at least be able to contend.
Yeah.
But yeah, that might be a little bit difficult in terms of like their transition sort of skills going through to forward line, but that should be fine.
Yeah. Now going on to, again, a bit like Carlton, like a couple in really bad areas, but not too many, but very long. So none of these, apart from Carl Shadia, are looking to be back.
Is Will Day back?
With any time frame.
Or is he still...
Will Day's back.
Okay, good.
I think he played preseason. I think it was like listed as possibly. Again, a few of these players had, back preseason, but their preseason matches hadn't played, so I removed them from the list. I feel like if you're playing preseason, you're probably looking more right than not. So again, James Blank, semi-defender project for Hawthorn, I think. Or maybe he's a forward. I don't know. All I know is he's often injured, and he's still got no time frame for his ACL injury. Mitch Lewis, again, for the forward line, no time frame for his ACL injury, but I think they're still thinking like mid this year.
Yeah, I would think it's mid, because he did his ACL like pretty, like kind of in the middle of the year, sort of late last season. So he should be back, hopefully, within the middle of the season. Yeah.
And Kalsha Dia, one of the big ones. Absolutely fantastic last year. Got a bit of a back problem, which, it's sort of hard because, Tolls, they sort of need that preseason. So it says early season. He might, again, take a few games to actually come back into the side.
Yeah.
Just because he's still young. So, yeah, as I said, they've got a few forward to replace. Maybe Ochol look all right in the practice matches, apparently. So...
Plus, with the fact that they're swinging Hardwick and Sicily up forward, they've got plenty bases covered for the time being anyway.
Yeah, so hopefully they can get patched up. But overall, nothing too out the ordinary. Just a shame at the length of some of these players.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Now we reach pain. And... unfortunately, there's only a few preseason ones, and there are a few of the obvious ones. Obviously, Petrarca with the rib. No surprise, he's not taking that much preseason action. He has been training. It's been a bit lighter, but he's still in there. Same with Jack Viney, Caleb Windsor as well. Like, he might feature in next preseason match, but otherwise, probably looking to reach round 1. And then Jake Melksham, again, probably going to miss some of the early preseason and early parts of the season. It says pre-early season. I don't know what that means. Whether they just meant preseason or whatever. Maybe it's like somewhere in between. I don't know too much about it, but Jake Milksham's sort of in and out the side anyway. I guess we go to the TBAs. Marty Hoare, hand. We don't know how long. Probably going to be a few weeks.
Yep.
Jad McVee, hamstring. Again, it's looking to be a bit bad. So, again, I'm thinking he might miss a bit of the early season, but who knows? A bit of a shame. I did pin him as a player. I really want a year tag for 2025 or whatever year we're in.
Yeah, so hopefully he recovers well, because he definitely deserves to have a solid breakout season this year.
Yeah, Luke Kentfield has pneumonia and is apparently very unwell. So they don't know when he's going to be back, but you think it's shorter. But you know what I mean. We just hope a good recovery from him. Never nice getting pneumonia.
Yeah.
Kazai Pickett's is a suspension for round 4. Colton Folstrop has bone stress, early mid-season comeback, but that is not an injury you want to see on a taller player.
No.
And now for some of the big ones. Andy Moen is Wakefield. We talked about it before. ACL injury will be back 2026 most likely. And there's another one. Shane McAdam ruled out with an Achilles for 2026 until 2026.
That's right. But the one player out of this list, apart from track, that I'm looking forward to seeing back on the park is Jake Melksham. I do genuinely like watching Jake Melksham. It's just age is catching up to him a little bit. He's late 20s, pushing 30. Or is he already in his 30s? I can't remember. But yeah, he's kind of getting on. He's in that veteran class of the Melbourne players. Doesn't have too long left, unfortunately. But when he's on the park, he's always I thought so. It's hopefully he comes back and actually plays out the rest of a full season, because if it might end up being his last, and I don't want him to kind of go out with an injury to end his career, because I do genuinely enjoy watching him play.
Yeah, but as I said, it's been rough because over the last 4 years, we've got 12 games played, 11, 13, and 8.
Yeah, so, it's not pretty.
As I said, it's been very hit or miss.
And most of them have always been in his legs too, which isn't helpful.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too where it's a shame, because you could see him, if he played even half a season, it sort of eases the loss of Alex Neil-Bullen.
Yeah, it does.
Because they play similar-ish. Pressure forward that, doesn't kick goals, but still provides avenues for scoring.
Yeah, exactly right.
So, yeah.
All right, North Melbourne time.
Melbourne. Again, not too bad for them. A lot better than other seasons, but we're starting with the preseason injuries. Zach Fisher, again, might play next preseason match. We're not sure yet, but is looking to be still round 1 contention. Will Dawson, young defender, sort of the same. I think that shoulder injury was late last season, so it stuck around for a while, but he's still tracking back. And now for more of the serious ones, Josh Gota got a hamstring injury in training not too long ago. He'll be out for the early part of the season. George Wardlaw, one of the bigger ones, he'll be looking to come back early to mid-season. And Callan Coleman-Jones ripped his Achilles early last year. He's a mid-season return, so this is a longer recovery period for him.
Yeah,
and Braden George also as well.
You're good. As I was going to say,
is also
on CJ is that with coast to coast rock favorite Tristan Sherry taking over the number 1 rock position, he has been relegated to second ruck / kind of forward option. So I don't know if when he returns they will play him as they will actually play 2 rucks, or if they'll just have him as a sub fill-in sort of role. which sucks because like he was brought to North purely to fill in that ruck position. When Goldie
Yeah.
went to Essendon. Um, so yeah, this injury, it's been plaguing him now for almost 12 months. It's pretty rough on him. But I mean, I love Sherry now, so we'll see how that goes for North.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where, like, it's a lot easier to say this just for any Toll player, but at least maybe North's defensive tolls are fairly fragile, you know what I mean? Like, maybe he comes back, pinches in defense, you know what I mean? Like a ruckman that just, falls back in defense when he's not being used, so maybe.
Yeah,
There might be a spot for him, but yeah, forward line, with the addition of Kennedy, with Larky still developing, you wouldn't think he spends too much time in the forward line, but who knows?
yeah. I mean, you never know what could happen with North. Like they're full of surprises, aren't they?
Yep. Anyway,
Speaking of
again,
surprises,
a few injuries, but some, all best 22 players and all somewhat significant. Uh, Again, no time frames for either of these, but Asava Radagalia with a knee injury. I don't think it's a. I swear it was patella for Radagalia, but I'm not 100%
it's
sure.
something knee
Um,
related.
but yeah, so I think he's looking to be hopefully early, but still unsure. And Branzek Thatcher's more of the undefined time frame because he's got back issues. He had it last year. Honestly, it slowed him down a lot. So
Mhm.
this might be a year where we sort of maybe put him on ice, um, as we're sort of transitioning anyway. Yay to see it because, I thought he did okay in some matchups last year. It's just, yeah, again, Toll player with back issues, you've got to be really cautious.
Yeah,
But we do need both of them. Probably more Asava just because it's more athletic. Um, but even Zach Thatcher
he's
would be
athletic.
handy
He's
to have
big
back.
bodied. He can crash defensive
Mm.
packs. That's. I think Asava's going to be a
Yeah,
slightly bigger loss.
exactly. And I know Asava Radaglia, his like defensive numbers weren't that crush shot, and people saying, "Oh, drop off," but yeah, it's just the way Port plays. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the biggest
that's
problem with
kind of
Asava
just always been how
Radaglia is
Port
more
has
of his
been.
ball use. Yeah, exactly. Like, is a player that, is very simple. He crashes pack, he stops some defensive movements, but sometimes he gets out of position, and sometimes his ball use is absolute trash.
Yeah,
So,
exactly right. All right,
moving on to
Richmond.
Richmond.
I will take handle of
Um,
these.
yeah.
There, we'll start on the most recent one with Sam Laidlaw. The concussion slash fractured jaw. It's pretty rough, bad timing because number one draft pick. You want to see him play. So he'll return first couple of rounds, hopefully, if they're able to heal it properly. Noah Bolter with that suspension in the off season. He's an angry man sometimes. So he'll come back in round
Yeah.
5. The ACL boys, Justin Clark, Josh Gibcus, McKelty Lafau, and Tyler Young. Gibcus is planning to return in the mid-season because he did his a little bit later in the season. But for the rest, they're hopefully planning to return early season, which would be great. We definitely need at least 2 of them on the field, but all 3 would be
Mm.
nice. And obviously, we definitely need Gibcus back in the back line. I miss him dearly. Dion
And I should
Prestia.
say, like these mid-season things, they're just guidelines. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like it could be early, it could be later.
yeah, it all
Hopefully
depends
earlier
on
for this
their
case.
recovery period and how they train, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Most recent one, ones I should say, being Hugo Railsmith and Dion Prestia, one with a hammy, one with an Achilles, both planning to return early season. Dion will likely be nursed because of his previous leg and soft tissue injuries. Josh Smiley, one of our other younger recruits, has done a brief hammy, but it's only for the preseason, so hopefully he should be back either this upcoming week or probably for round 1 if he is going to be viable to play. Um, and yeah, so overall, actually not too bad. It's just younger players that that would be really nice to have out on the field. Plus
Yeah.
the best midfielder that we've got when he's actually on park, and our swingman.
Yeah, as I said, well the biggest thing is like the unfortunate thing is like the couple of rookies, obviously Sam Layla, but um of most of these aren't actually new injuries. These are just carryover
No,
from
yeah,
last
the
year.
the
So
ACL boys carried over from last season.
yeah, and of course Dion's Dion. So
Yeah, of course. But yeah, like for Young and Gibcus, they're probably the two that we're going to miss the most because they're going to be part of our core defensive line. Obviously, Bolter, play both ends. He's just suspended. He'll come back. He'll be fine. And yeah, that's just hopefully for the rest of them. Especially, Hugo's going to be a big loss because of the fact that he's our new best wingman. So we're going to miss his running carry on the wings. But other than that, we're all expecting Richmond to finish 18th anyway.
probably.
I need some kind of silver lining. There isn't really one
Well,
here right now.
again, some of these teams like with very bad injury lists, like they could be somewhat near.
Speaking
Oh,
of,
talking about St Kilda, you know, it's not a lot of early season projections, but it's just a lot. And yeah, some of these don't return. For some reason, a lot of these have round ones. I think they had their own injury report sort of thing that specifically said. But again, going from shortest term prospects. Hunter Clark has been nursed through this preseason. Saw a few other things I mentioned about other players running through the mids to replace him. Then we've got, I think there was another preseason. Oh no. Okay, so we'll go to the round one ones. Max Kin battling to get towards round one. They don't play in round zero, so again, this is like a battle towards. Ron Marshall sort of in the same boat. Pelvis issue hasn't featured in the preseason. Same with Jack Sinclair. All put on ice to hopefully get them ready for round one. Liam Henry, one of the bigger ball movers in the forward half, has got a knee injury and will miss the early season. Dougal Howard, shoulder injury, who'll be missed until the late season. Mid-season. Same with Mateus Philippou. I got no idea if I spelled his name right. Probably.
it's close enough.
Well, it's trying to correct it to Maddie's, so I don't trust it.
No,
But
I think that's actually correct. So you're good.
yeah. So he's got a female mid-season. Very much of a shame. I was excited to see what he could do this year. Alex Torrey, again, young rookie. He's got back issues and returning early to mid. And I forgot Mason Wood apparently is battling to return for round one. That actually should have been with the others. Again, I just copied and pasted these, so a lot of these are a bit scattered. I apologize.
No, that's all good. Anyway, and yeah, like it's good that a lot of their injuries are just hopefully like early season returns.
Yeah.
It just means
Well, it's
a
still
lot
not
of
good for
interrupted
preseason.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
The
was gonna
fact
say.
is, St Kilda are going to be looking towards a lot of the youngsters anyway, so it might not be the worst. Like, if they were a contender, or like serious contender, like obviously every team's going to try and like be making finals, but you know what I mean. Like, you got to be thinking St Kilda's a bit reined back,
Yeah,
compared to other teams. So.
and in their case, it's not a bad idea to just play the kids, give them some game time, give them some experience.
Yeah, as they work out that next bit of structure. They've still got a lot of their core in, so as I said, it's mainly just Dougal Howard, considering that their defense has been, and Alex Torrey, since their defense has been a bit gutted.
Yeah. I mean, having Marshall in probably would help a lot as well, but that won't be. Other than that, they shouldn't miss too much, really.
Yeah. Anyway, now it looks pretty big, but Sydney's injury list, a lot of them are fairly fringe players anyway. We talked a bit about them, but again, starting with some of the less serious ones. Tom Papley's being nursed through the preseason, sitting out all the games with ankle issues. Kellen Mills, it says preseason, but I still feel like this is a bit of TBC. He's got plantar fasciitis. He has been training. I think they might probably see how well he runs out of game if he doesn't play one of the preseasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I read a report early, like yesterday maybe, or was this morning, that he wants to play, or he's aiming for round one, I should specifically say. But yeah, there's no like hard timeline on that just yet.
Round 0 or round 1?
Round 1.
Okay.
Because round 0 and this week's preseason is pretty close for him to really be 100%
Yeah,
fit.
exactly. Same as that, he may return. Actually, have a different pathway to returning, but again, that's a very. It's plantar fasciitis is like something you have to work with more than anything. You know, it's always going to stick around. It's about managing pain and all that sort of stuff. Jack Buller, shoulder for the preseason. Don't know much about him, but yeah, he might find himself in next season's next pre-season match.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, he'll probably just go to the NEAFL or whatever it is now. Well, was that all just VFL now?
I think Apart from the waffle and the Sandfall, it's all just VFL at this point.
Yeah. And yeah, Patrick Snell. Oh no, so that's early season. Oh yeah, Hayden McLean. That's the other one. They're nursing through.
Yes.
Now getting to the shorter terms, we've got Clayton Cleary. He's suspended. He'll be back in round 2.
Mm-hmm.
Youngster Jesse Detoli will be back early mid-season. He's got a back issue. Unfortunate for the young player. Harry Cunningham, that might be interesting. He's got a foot with no time frame. So he's always a bit on the fringe anyway. So we'll see if he comes back into the side.
Mm-hmm.
Logan McDonald, probably a bit of an issue. Ankle, TBC, but I'm suspecting that'll be early season prognosis. Youngster called Patrick Snell has a hamstring. He'll be back in the early season. And I think that's it.
Will Edwards? Or did you touch? Or did you?
Will Edwards. Again, rookie leg preseason. Yeah, again, probably not looking to be in the main side, but you know, hopefully you might get a proper preseason run at least.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, West Coast, which
amazingly not too much.
I know this is a big shock.
Bad ones.
However, like the one player that they didn't want to go out went out with an injury.
Well, I meant Dumb Sheet as well, but yeah.
Yeah, but like, this is probably going to be Dom Sheets was last year anyway, I'll be honest.
Maybe. Anyway, Rhett Bazzo, doubtful for round 1 with a foot. You know, is on the fringes anyway. He'll probably return via Waffle.
Yeah, fair chance.
Elliot Yeo, MCL ankle issue. He'll be back early season. The sooner the better for West Coast, because geez, they cannot lose too much in the midfield. As we went in the preview, they're already struggling there.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, again, as I mentioned, Elijah Hewitt might be a player that plays more, fills in a little bit, you know. But yeah, otherwise, a bit of a shame. And Dom Sheed, ACL done until 2026.
Yeah, it's Yo is the biggest one.
Yeah, at least with Sheed, they've got other forward line players that they're putting time in. So
yeah, like it's not the biggest loss with Sheed, but in that midfield, they cannot lose anyone else.
Yeah. Talking about losing players in important areas, it's not the longest list, but probably some of the biggest names. It's the Western Bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're starting off. Yeah, okay. Ed Richards is probably the most unknown one. I saw an article about it. It didn't have too much, so I'm thinking that this might just be scans on a calf. So I think that this might be, working towards round 1 sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a TBC, so at worst it's early season. At best it's pushing for round 1. Same with Anthony Scott. He has a patella injury. He's doubtful for round 1. Now, I don't really know how to order these, but we'll go with the TBCs. We've got Aaron Norton's calf, which they're not sure about when he'll return, and Jamara Eagle-Hagan. Again, personal reasons, it's hard to exactly say when he'll be back, but you think with the way that he's missed preseason and training sessions that he's probably going to at least take a few weeks before he's AFL ready. Then Adam Treloar, he's got a calf issue. It's all calves. I don't know. Maybe
what's going on with the legs of the doggies?
Maybe they need to go on the bikes less. I don't know. It's like Ralph Wiggins. You know that episode of The Simpsons where Ralph Wiggins is picking his nose and it starts bleeding?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you got to stop picking your nose. Or you need to pick your nose more. I forget which one, So, yeah. It's a bit like that sometimes with injuries. Liam Jones, big loss in defence, hamstring early season. Jason Johannesson, yeah, I haven't seen much of him.
No,
He's
yeah,
on
he's
his
he's
way out, I
probably on
would
the
think.
retirement sort of end of the
Yeah,
career
early to
anyway.
mid-season, looking for him back. And as I said, Cody Waitman, also one of these later injuries, started off training, picked up an injury during, so his knee and out until mid-season most likely.
Yeah, it's very unlucky. And then with a brief patella injury, Anthony Scott doubtful for round one. Fringe player for the most part anyway, so that's okay. It's not too bad.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that, but yeah, Scott's like a possible defender, I think. I don't even know. Um, yeah. So, um, yeah,
Pretty
not great.
no, not great for any team really, except for Geelong apparently.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Adelaide
I
too.
mean, look, a lot
Adelaide
of
also
these are
not losing
like,
too much.
yeah, a lot of these are like league average, but it makes a difference, because a lot of teams, like last year, the ones that weren't missing their players, like Sydney, how they almost missed no players at the first half of their season and ended up being top of the ladder. So Adelaide's definitely someone I can see being a bolter. Geelong definitely could be a first half of the season. Like they could finish on the bye top of the ladder. They've got
Yeah.
the potential to. And then others is just more of a hoping things get going. I guess Hawthorn too, but a lot of their injuries are significant with Lewis and Deer.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's transition over to our last topic for the week, and that is our SSP list. So the AFL released a report for all of the SSP players that have signed on to clubs. They've also released this article under a statement saying that the clubs want to lobby for an extended SSP window due to all of the injuries that happened to teams over the weekend or injuries that have carried over from training sessions and end of season. So that's what this article kind of goes through. But we're just going to, at the moment, touch on all of the SSP signings. Some are players that are already pre-existing in the system, have come from other teams. For our first one, for example, Francis Evans, who came from Port Adelaide, is now.
Oh, sorry, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes, go on.
Because I just need to check this. But because this article came out a day ago, it just had the list. But they have actually agreed to extend the SSP window to all the preseason.
Excellent.
And there's also a couple of new signings, so I'll take over after you get through the list because there's another signing that came late.
Excellent. So I will just continue on as where I was going. So Francis Evans originally started at Port Adelaide, or was it Port Adelaide last season, I should say. Now he's at
Frankie
Carlton. Matt Carroll was already at Carlton, just got re-signed or relisted under the SSP rule. Tom Edwards, who was playing in like tier 3, tier 4 football, I think he was. I think he was the one that was playing. Oh no, it was Josh Lai, sorry. Tom Edwards, I think, was playing like tier 2 somewhere. He is now at Essendon again after kicking that massive bag. Jackson Pryor, who was playing at the Brisbane Lions, is now at Essendon as well. Isaiah Dudley, was he a waffle player?
Sandful.
Sandful, okay, thank you. Is now over at Fremantle. Quentin Narkle.
That's it, replacing the Toll. What's his name? The one we mentioned before.
Yeah.
Odin Jones.
That's right. Yeah, the Ruck.
Yeah.
The one with the back issue. That's right. Quentin Narkle, we've already talked about this before. This is Quentin Narkle's third club, being previously at Port Adelaide and Geelong. He did trial with Richmond, I believe, last season, but managed to get onto Port's list. Oh, last season before. I know he trialed with us at some point.
It was 2 seasons.
Might have been 2 seasons. But yeah, went to Port Adelaide and now is at Fremantle, which is his home state of WA. Ben Jepson, I think was possibly
From Canada.
Oh, he's a Canadian player.
No, don't listen to me.
Oh, if only that were true.
Charlie Ray Jepson, yeah.
Okay, that's where you were going with
from
that.
Victoria. Yeah.
Anyway,
Victoria.
He's been signed at the Gold Coast Suns. Jack Henderson is now signed at Melbourne. Josh Lai, who was playing like tier 3, tier 4 football, has basically been fast tracked, disregarded tier 2 footy, and is now at Port
exactly.
Adelaide.
Just shove him in there.
I think he was playing for like Cheltenham or something like that. Some sort of like
Yes,
obscure
something
tier 3, tier
weird.
4 team. Harry Boyd
Yeah.
is now at St Kilda, and Sandy Brock is now at West Coast.
Yeah. Sandy Brock, that's just a description of Pokemon's first gym leader.
It really is.
Uh anyway.
What are
Sorry,
you?
I
What are
should
your
stop kidding
extras?
around. All these jokes on the podcast. Right. The ones that I need to mention, as I mentioned, Lachlan McAndrews has been given has replaced Kieran Strawn as he moved to the inactive list. And apparently Melbourne did finish the paperwork for Jai Cully, who was a former Eagle, who was looking to actually, because they put Jack Henderson ahead of him. But, as I said, Jack Henderson was looking to either go to West Coast or Melbourne. So went to
Melbourne.
Melbourne, and then of course they get Jai Cully as well. So bit of WA connection there.
Very nice, very nice.
Although I don't know if Jai Cully is actually WA.
Yeah. Cool.
He is actually, because he was a mid-season pickup at one point. Yeah. No, sorry, he's from Dandenong Stingray, so yeah.
He's from my neck of the woods.
Yeah. So makes sense. And I should say a bit of news as well. Ruben Gibney is all clear. They didn't deem anything happened.
I mean, I disagree with that.
Yeah, as I said.
But
Well,
whatever.
it isn't. But there's nothing in the AFL
ruling.
that actually. There's nothing in the AFL as it stands now that could justify putting him off.
I mean, we've still got time to make a rule change.
Yeah, but you can't make the rule change and book him. You know what I mean? It's just the unfortunate side of things.
No,
but yeah, as we mentioned,
can't do both.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But yeah, as we look ahead, this week we've got the rest of the preseason matches. Wednesday night is the annual Charity Shield preseason match between Richmond and Collingwood. All proceeds of that go to Food Bank, I believe. I think that's off the top of my head. I think that's correct. And then after that, we lead on to the actual start of the season with round 0. And we get actual statistics available and rundowns, and we get everything that we need.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Oh, it'll be great. I mentioned we're still looking to be a bit more, I guess, a bit more flexible with what we do this year.
Yes.
Probably looking to utilize a few more images, probably looking to talk a bit less if possible. We'll see how good we are at that. But we're always going to be striving to bring you pretty comprehensive coverage. And yeah, hopefully once the season starts, we'll be finding out where a few of these teams lay, because there's a few big question marks. A few teams I'm interested, especially in the round 0 matchups.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah.
I'm as we all know, like first couple of rounds usually don't mean too much, especially if teams have pre-existing injuries and don't really have their best 22s on the park. But I'm definitely interested to see like where some teams' depth are in terms of like their current injury lists. Like this week and round 0 for the most part will actually be like good indicators of that, because most of the teams are actually a part of that sort of group. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to the footy being back full time. It's gonna be great.
Absolutely.
So in that case, that will do us for episode 47 of the podcast. Thank you all so much for coming to hang out, coming to listen, just coming to chill as we just run down the rest of the preseason. If you want to check out our socials, obviously they're always down below. My socials over here. There we go. Sorry, over there. Not that he uses Instagram much, but it's there if you want to check it out. I'm live fairly often on my Twitch now that I'm back from Queensland. I can stream on weekends again, which is great. So my plan is to stream tonight. Not that you'll see this anyway until Wednesday, but plan is tonight. Tomorrow night, Tuesday. They're the 2 nights that are always a definite stream. Wednesday is 50, whereas this podcast goes live, is 50-50, because again, I might go to a footy. We'll see on that. The no stream for me on Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday are currently all up in the air as well, but that is perfectly fine. I am constantly active on Twitter and Instagram, so please go check them out if you want to go check them out. If you want to follow me, see what I get up to, especially my Instagram. I post a lot on my Instagram stories. You'll see a bit of my adventures as to how I got home. If you're checking this out on the Monday itself, or checking my socials out on the Monday itself, I should say, because it does not go out on a Monday. Ignore that.
Yeah.
But yes,
I'm very infrequent on socials, but you'll probably find me on random footy boards, talking randomly about the AFL. Post a few bits on Reddit, post a few bits on other footy channels. So, yeah, if you ever see me on there, feel free to say hi. And if you are from that and you've checked out it because I've left a comment, hello.
welcome on in. All right, that will do us. Thank you all so much once again, and we will see you all next week for episode 48. So until then, hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.